So, as we know, last week we started um, down on Bahara, where the captain, Desesh, and the doctor. Um, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm gonna do the recap a little bit different. As Jill and Kiana were a little not as much shanghaied this time as the doctor was by Commander Arif. He had pulled them away from the Nightingale on the eve of Voyager's entry to, well, take care of a shakedown cruise for the USS Ranger, the Defiant class starship that Deep Space 17 just got to play with. Um, as he as he asked her to specifically conduct some low energy tests to see what the ship could do without uh, showing off its power signature, she managed to handle them both with aplomb. And as that was going on, the doctor, um, the our first officer, and the captain were checking in on the planet and kind of um, squaring away the mystery of what's affecting them. The doctor was able to, well, through copious samples, the doctor was able to determine that the main issue is the fact that the planet is all in all a little too hot. And it appears to be kind of killing um, the compound that these Baharans need. Uh, Somewhat connected to that, Desesh and Kasara took a little field trip to the sun, where they realized not only was the sun giving off a couple extra flares than as usual, but they also realized that there was a small, uh, about meter length negative hole in the sun, and by negative hole I mean uh, while no scans could pierce it, it was clear that none of the gas could, well, pierce it either of the star, and um, forcing the currents away from that particular area seemed to cause a feedback reaction, which, well, would produce a solar flare. Um, in doing so, in the scans, though they were called back to the ship before retrieving it, they reasoned pretty well that this is probably the preserver obelisk that is, well, typically found in a lot of these systems. They were planning on removing it, but that's when Voyager got there early, and along with the captain and good old Chakotay, the Kai Arso was brought on board too. Uh, After realizing a couple things, one that Kai, well, had a couple personal connections along the ship that were unexpected, and, well, she was quite able. Um, the uh, Admiral Janeway brought everyone in for what turned out to be a horrendous meeting where the Kai essentially essentially told the group that well, she's in on a secret that you guys are too, but you guys just don't know it yet. And before the conversation could shift over to the Vedek's exploding transport, Janeway started to speak on matters pertaining to the Borg. And as as the doctor got a little bit huffy, um, and stood up and was prepared to walk out, I think that's where I will deposit us. As Vanderveer is standing there, most likely looking a little bit upset, the Admiral simply holds up her hand, um, almost willing him to calm down slightly as she says, "Doctor," and then kind of shifting her gaze over to Morgana. Before she looks back to the doctor, she says, "Doctor, there's information that, well, quite frankly, you aren't party to yet. And if you please sit down, I'd like to, well, explain to you all about." And she her face kind of turns to a grimace as she says, "The Borg's most recent incursion to the Alpha Quadrant." Have we a doctor?
I'm looking to the doctor to see if he needs me to back him up.
I yes, I wasn't aware that was a closed statement.
Oh, sorry. No, I think at the moment she's just kind of waiting to see if you're
But
still gonna walk out.
slowly lower himself back to his seat. His expression doesn't change.
All right. Um,
Kiana looks to the captain.
Okay. Uh, there's minute traces of anger in everything about her right now. Borderline rage. But she's holding it together. She's like vibrating.
oh.
Totally not directed at the doctor, but rather the Borg, just to clarify.
Yes. It's
Okay.
Borg that's pissing
I
her
figured
off.
it. Sure.
Alrighty. So real quick, before I get into the explanation, I'm gonna shift us over to the galaxy map. Where I'm talking about, or where I'm about to talk about, is right here.
Okay.
By the tip of the London pin, dart.
Oh,
What's the Talarian Republic?
so you know that those guys from Suddenly Human who kidnapped a kid?
Right. Okay.
Those guys.
I'm informed. Okay.
Yes. All right, I'm gonna take us back to the conference room now. As she says, there we go, conference room. As she says, there's, and she starts to actually, her face kind of starts to match Morgana's grimace as she starts to move over to the console at the side of the room to start a display. And as she does, she actually, knowing your race, Captain, you can feel as she moves by, she actually puts her hand on your left shoulder and kind of gives it a small kind of squeeze.
Yep. I mean, for a brief second, she tenses again, not expecting to be touched, but she still keeps it together.
And as she goes and starts inputting commands to the console, you guys actually see her turn around as the display lights up, and she says, the USS Enterprise a couple of weeks ago has engaged with the Borg. This time, however, it wasn't a cube. It was an assimilated Federation ship. And I swear, this has nothing to do with the character, but it's the USS Rhea. What can I say? You named your character after something that had already been named, so it's not my fault. But it's spelled a little differently. And as she looks to you, she says, "That's not the only significant discovery in this area of space, but it was surely the most personal. The Enterprise engaged with the starship until they were both separated by force. And though the force was completely nonviolent, it pushed them dozens of light years away from each other and away from the area. The Enterprise did a little bit more research, and they discovered that that area was infested by, or not infested, sorry, that area was populated by what appears to be something of an impressive phenomenon. There were a number of planets that formed in separate systems, mind you, but they were formed almost completely of diamond, with a number of tunnels and streaks and causeways of graphite. After doing a little bit more research, they realized that these entire planets over the eons managed to have enough energy fed into them that, she just gives a shrug, looks a little astounded, and says, the fact of the matter is, a diamond is one hell of an insulator, and graphite can conduct electricity. It would appear that these planets have managed to evolve into sentient computers.
I think it's safe to say that the session are both staring at each other at the description after seconds.
Agreed.
Just nodding along, like, okay, yeah.
Something I believe I don't need to tell you that even a crude computer compared to ours, however the size of a planet, networked through different systems, is immensely powerful. And that seems like something that is irresistible to the Borg. And they went back, and the Enterprise managed to stop them. However, there were some peculiarities. It appears that the Borg we know of have evolved slightly. They now attack on sight and are far more aggressive than their usual ignore us until we're a threat. We're quite frankly, bouncing around ideas about how this could be, but
They simply assumed we are a threat on that
They've adapted.
Lin-
Considering the Federation are all the ones that send them back every time. Just about. The captain says. It would only make sense that they see us as a threat.
nodding, Janeway says that was my first thought too. Seven of Nine, who's currently there studying the dormant ship, has a bit of a different idea when she looked over the logs and discovered that not only have the Borg drones adapted, but it would appear that, and with a little bit of a shudder, she says their ships have adapted as well. Well, the ship itself seemed to be instrumental in separating the away team from each other.
The away team?
Sorry, I skipped over that part. In the way, yes, to answer your question, Janeway says, yes, the way we discovered all this was Captain Picard sent over an away team, assuming they would react the same. And, well, quite frankly, had I been in his shoes, I probably would have done the exact same.
their behaviors.
The away team. Sorry.
Say that again.
Their behavior has been a known variable in some sense. Believe still out. They had-
I apologize, you were cutting in and out there.
It makes sense that their behavior is. We would assume that their behavior would remain the same as they had before. I don't think any captain would have done something different if they were trying to investigate.
Did the away team live?
No, Janeway says, shaking her head as she looks down a little bit. It was a total loss.
So you were saying that the Rhea is dormant at the moment? It's just floating in space?
It is, she said. She says, the Enterprise managed to, well, create quite a clever solution, at least for the moment. And, well, quite frankly, that's where the ship comes in. One of the things they managed to discover, and, well, it quite frankly filled in some of the information we were looking for about what happens when a contingent of Borg is separated so far from the Queen that they can't communicate. It would appear that they have something that's called a Royal Jelly Protocol. If there's no Queen present and they can't contact the Queen, apparently what they do is bathe a drone in a certain hormone that essentially they give them a hormone bath that will turn any Borg drone, male, female, neither, into the Borg Queen. So, what Dr. Crusher came up with was, and as she smiles a little bit, as she looks out of the window to the Nightingale. She called it a multi-vector assault virus. It would disrupt the hormone that, or it would introduce a second hormone into this formed queen that manages to disrupt their ability to communicate and disable them. At least all of the drones that the queen is connected to. However, there are certainly some issues with it. What they found out that the Borg have adapted pretty well, along with their personal shields. Their solution was to, introduce it through basically time delayed programming for an assimilated drone. However, that programming needed to be in place before the assimilation. So Captain Picard once again donned the mantle of Locutus and quickly saying, to which he's fully recovered by this point. And he got himself assimilated to introduce this pathogen.
Ugh. So they're currently acting under the influence of this pathogen?
They're currently disabled, she says. The drones themselves have been, the Luna itself is now an empty, the Rhea itself is now an empty starship. We are currently, or the Enterprise has currently created a shield bubble in space, has filled it with some atmosphere, and has transported all of the drones aboard.
Aboard the Enterprise?
Aboard the shield bubble in space, essentially putting them in a fair.
They're in a Green Lantern bubble.
Okay.
And as she says, directly after I'm done here, I plan on going to rendezvousing. I'll be taking the Voyager to rendezvous with the Enterprise and continue my work over there. I am, and saying it just matter-of-factly without a hint of pride. She says, I am, quite frankly, one of the foremost experts the Federation has on the Borg, so my place is there. But I'm not an expert in any of this, she says, grabbing a pad that presumably has the multi-vector assault virus information on it. And as she kind of drops it down onto the table, she says, I need this research furthered. I need to, one, I need to see if it's possible to enhance the delivery method. Two, I need to find out if it's possible to change it in such a way that it'll liberate these drones. But three, I need it to work, regardless.
If nobody else grabs the pad, then Jill will grab it.
Yeah, Nira's at the point where she's listening, but she's at the point where she's afraid if she moves, she's going to get very angry. So she's listening, kind of hands on the table, turning to look only when the thing is on, and yada yada.
How many Borg drones are currently in our custody from this incident?
Most of the original crew of the Rhea, which is about 470. Just
I assume that the away team was probably separated from that, given that they were only recently assimilated. Or are they still in? Are they still in peril as well?
Dark, a bit of a dark look passes by the admiral's gaze as she says, they were not separated. No,
What about Locutus?
he has been recovered. The
But we didn't get the away team fast enough.
Dr. Crusher had taken steps to make the de-assimilation process significantly easier.
Yes, I guess they saw that coming.
They did. 2020 hindsight usually provides a much clearer picture.
What is the current delivery method?
Human sacrifice.
Of the
Mira
virus?
says.
Originally, actually nodding at Morgana's statement, she says that would be correct. It is a compound that is possible to deliver through a hypospray, but due to the Borg's enhanced shielding and, well, their resistance to transporter beams within them, it is another variable to have to bypass. However, that specific part, while you guys can feel free to work on that as you wish, you are not the only ship that I have a mission for regarding this. I have no interest in putting all my eggs in one basket.
I didn't follow that last part.
She basically said that in terms of the delivery method itself, if you guys want to study and work on that, that's super kosher. But she's also asking other ships as well in an effort to.
Our role in this is medical, right? We're taking custody of the Borg drones, right?
No.
Medical research.
Medical research, yes. She is asking you to develop the you know what, for to make it more palatable, why don't I call it the anti-assimilation medicine?
And unfortunately,
procedure that will allow someone to anti-assimilate someone.
yes, however, we're going to have to use the crew like SCP Subject Ds because that's the only way so far to get it introduced into the system.
Make no mistake.
Why are we not?
This is.
Why are we? Chad, go ahead.
No. You ask your question first.
I would think we would want to try and do this research on the away team, wouldn't we? Like, shouldn't we try to take custody of the away team?
No, you won't actually be going there. You'll be staying in this area, and that area is significantly out of your reach. And, well, quite frankly, if Santos is correct in how great this ship is, you guys might be the most important factor. So there's absolutely no way I'm putting you anywhere near live Borg.
So we're to be operating entirely theoretically on this.
Until we get a chance to test it, yes.
At that point, Jill will slide the pad over to Duke. At least something to start with. Maybe there is a delivery. Give it and be over. Admiral, you said you needed this to work. What's wrong with it right now?
We've found that while it does disrupt the Borg's internal communications and in the process disables them, it does absolutely nothing to slow, reverse, stop, or fix the assimilation process. We need that part of it because and as she kind of looks to Chakotay for a second, she says, it's not as, as she says, looking up, she says, as someone who was briefly linked with the collective, I and Captain Picard and Seven of Nine could tell you this better than I could, but there's a desolation within every drone, and that is the true consciousness of said drone. It's a living hell, and if we can save them from it, then, well, it's our duty to, and we have to. And if we can't, we can at least help them to rest in peace.
In the latest encounters with the Borg, they still have an atmosphere.
They still have a what?
Atmosphere. Do they still breathe?
Yes.
Keanu looked to the Admiral and said, what you're asking for is a miracle.
Smiling at that, she says, yes, I am. Is there anyone here who is willing to step up and, well, give me a miracle?
We're just going to need some time.
There's no way we can get access to actual patients here for the purpose of this. It seems like we're being asked to do this on a very high-minded theoretical level when there's actual, like, patients that we could be dealing with.
Let me be clear, Commander. I don't care how difficult it makes your job. There will not be a Borg stepping foot on this ship, she says, rather coldly, looking at him.
Jill, on Desesh's other side, Jill's going to nod. The risk of an accident is too great.
I wasn't necessarily saying we bring them aboard, but access could be facilitated in some sort of third-party form.
The Voyager will be dropping me off on the USS Einstein. It's specifically a science vessel, and it's already en route to um, the Rhea. Um, I will be happy to allow the Einstein to be your arms should you need them, but I have to agree with the captain. As I've said earlier, this um, if Santos is even half right, this ship is way too important to um, get anywhere near the Borg.
I was going to suggest that any technology anywhere near the Borg would be a bad idea. I was going to suggest maybe something on a planet,
I think
some sort of camp, colony.
I'm sorry, Commander. I'm gonna have to deny that.
Very well.
Might I suggest a shuttle or hollow recorder and a safe distance? Our holographic system should be enough to recreate whatever is scanned. She says.
And any information that comes back goes through a quarantine buffer.
Well,
All right.
as she says, it should take me about. I plan on leaving within the hour. It should take me within about 6 days to get to the location and rendezvous with the Einstein. And as soon as I do, I'll be dropping subspace relays along the trip. That's why it'll take so long. You should have mostly instantaneous communication by the time we get there.
Why can't we do what we did with Mountain, Admiral?
Problem is,
That's why there's subspace buoys, she says.
it's also a known issue that Borg infect preliminarily assimilate technology through a constant high band signal. That's why I suggest
Yes, and with the radical changes we've already witnessed in the collective, I think caution is warranted, even if it even if it seems abundant and overbearing.
Was the pad handed to the doctor yet, or was it handed to somebody else?
so far Kiana
Yeah, Kiana.
Oh, okay.
And then she'll slide it down.
And as she nods, she says, Chakotay will be able to fill in the rest. If you'll excuse me, I am planning on departing within a couple hours. I will be stopping at Bajor before I do, but, well, I would like to take a moment before I go to reconnect with an old friend, adversary, both, either.
Realizing who she means, Nira will hit her comm badge, which would connect to the communications of the Nightingale, and say, "Right, Nightingale, if you could connect me to this son on Bahara, if he's still there."
Well, his ship is. Comes the voice of Jacques as he says, "Hold on for 1 second, Captain." And there's, the 20 seconds of silence in the room as everyone kind of looks towards each other until eventually communication sparks to life again as you can hear Dasan say, Captain Morgana, is everything okay?
Everything's perfectly fine, Dasan. Have you taken a break from your wrestling matches? We have a friend up here who would like to say hi.
Is it urgent? He says. The fact of the matter is, I am being ganged up on, and I must show these heathens the error of their ways.
She chuckles a bit and then looks around the table and says, he's kidding. Well, the Voyager has arrived, so if you would like to say hi to the Admiral, she's here.
All of a sudden, all of you hear a very loud word come from the communication as he says, "Halt!" And then with the voice lowered a little bit and much less commanding, he says, "We are done for now, but." And all of a sudden you hear something must have happened, because you hear the excited sounds of half a dozen children, and then you hear him again, "Nightingale, I'll be on my ship momentarily," and the communication cuts off.
She'll look back at the Admiral. I figured he was still down there, roughhousing a little bit. He's actually quite good with children.
Hold on, sorry, I'm doing quick temporal math in my head. Janeway simply looks a little surprised at that and said, "Huh, who would have thought?" Well, thank you, Captain. And looking around the table, she says, once again, Chakotay can probably fill you in, but is there anything anyone needs from me?
No.
I have a timeline on this.
Oh, sorry.
Timeline on the...
On the miracle.
Well, smiling a little bit, she says, "Well, not for 6 days at least." And as with a bit of a chuckle, she says, "Seriously though, given the scope of the project, I don't see this. I don't see this being finished within weeks, but." Anything you can do to hurry the process. We don't need it done quick, but we need it done right. But we also need it done quick.
Understood.
And with a crisp nod to the rest of you, Janeway exits the room.
Hold on.
Oh, she does not exit the room. She almost exits the room.
Admiral, at some point, I'm gonna need a board.
You'll have almost 470 of them, Doctor. You'll...
Not a recent one. Not a former Starfleet one. I need one that assimilated them. Now, the work itself isn't going to be hindered by not having a subject, but if I can't have my hands on the project, then I can't see what the results are going to be, and I'm just not prepared for that. I can start right away, but at some point I will need a subject. An older subject. Preferably one that was generated from the collective and not assimilated from an outside species.
So I'm just thinking about how I want to respond to that.
I hate the thought of it, but right.
We'll have one of the runabouts set up as separate.
As
They probably don't have any that were not generated by the assimilation of the Rhea, though, right?
we're
It'd be
still-
whoever assimilated them. I'm sure there's some stragglers that are still stuck aboard.
we're
I
still
mean, it's
looking.
possible, but not certain.
We're still looking into it, Doctor, and for now, I'm only prepared to have you work through the other scientists in almost in what could be described as a galactic isolation room. If you show results, then it's something to talk about, but as of now, no Borg or no Borg technology is getting within anywhere close to the Nightingale.
We have to doctor that. So,
The captain will pull up her genetic code for a shot in the dark. She'll send it to Chakotay with a note that says, while you're looking for Borg, look for Lorians. You know, kind of thing. She's just like, if this was her mother and father, this is gonna be bad. Kind of thing.
Still looking for assimilated people.
Her mother, her father, her younger sister, and yeah.
Rough.
With a very, what's the look? With the look of mostly sympathy and a slight amount of pity, Janeway looks to you and says, "We'll do our best to keep our eyes open."
She nods.
Who is the chief medical officer of the Einstein?
That would be a Dr. Pearl.
Pearl?
Pearl.
And its captain?
That would be the CMO.
The Dr. Pearl is the captain.
No, okay. No, that's the CMO. Sorry. That's the main doctor. As to the captain, it's Captain Warren.
Warren?
Warren, who is not. You know what? I'm gonna say he's just not known to any of you. Really, he's one of the umpteen thousand captains that don't get huge recognition.
Yeah, fair enough. They do their job, 9 to 5s, rest, yada yada.
All right.
And she says, "Best of luck," and starts to exit the room. And
Yep.
and just as she kind of leaves, the Kai turns to Hugh Cambridge and says, "Perhaps you should go with her." To which he gets kind of a bit of a look. I don't want to. So her gaze immediately turns to Chakotay as she says, with a little bit more steel in her voice, perhaps he should go with her. And Chakotay looks to Cambridge and says, Doctor. And with a look of regret, he starts to exit the room too.
While that exchange is going on, Desesh would have heard kind of a McCoy line by her saying under her breath, I'm a doctor, not a bioengineer.
Who was that?
The captain.
No. I meant like Cambridge. No one's told Desesh who that is.
That's fair. He hasn't been introduced, and now he's.
And that was me just leaning over to the captain and saying, like, who was that?
Would you say it loud enough for Chakotay to overhear?
Yeah, I don't think I was being coy about it. I just, like, directed
Okay.
my question at someone in particular.
That's our chief counselor, Hugh Cambridge. He's, well, a bit of a schmuck, but he's quite good at his job. And looking at you, Captain Morgana, with a bit of a wince, he says, I apologize, Captain. However, given your history with the Borg, he was rather convinced you would pull a nutty, and I decided to give you more credit, but he wanted to be here, and well, now he's no longer needed.
No, that's quite alright. She says, it's good for the younger generation of counselors to learn what a professional looks like, she says.
And I couldn't help but overhear your mutterings. But if I saw correctly in your report, you have children, do you not?
She looks over at... It was Chakotay saying it, right?
Yes.
Yes, about half a dozen.
Then I would say that you're a bioengineer. With a bit of a smile.
As
no.
flattering as that is, she says.
Jill and Kiana just both snored at the comment.
I'm fairly sure you would have gotten a chuckle out of my Vulcan son as well. She turns to Desesh.
Captain?
Oh, I thought he was saying something.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then she doesn't. But that's no. It was an errant comment, she says. It's fine.
Well, I am
Oh.
simply trying to lighten the mood, Chakotay says.
So I imagine we should begin coordinating this then?
Well, you're
Look,
off the hook.
Chakotay.
Well, you're off the hook for a week until the Voyager gets to the Einstein, and though the preliminary research could certainly get underway. That being said, I think aside from that, at least until we know more, I don't see any issues in the Nightingale continuing her current mission.
Yes,
We-
oh, sorry.
I would like to resolve things at Bahara before we completely immerse ourselves in this.
What's left to do? The Kai asks, curiously, not scornfully.
I look to the captain just to get the impression of whether we're supposed to have this conversation here, but
She kind of smiles and says, "Well, it seems that the Baharans are suffering from a planetary event," she says. "Not a end-of-life one, but..." She'll look at the doctor since he's the one with the research. Sorry, Caleb. And says, "However, Dr. Vanderveer is the one that has been doing the most with it," she says. "Perhaps he can put it into plain terms, but I highly doubt that," she says with a grin.
I might be able to keep up, the Kai says, matching your grin slightly.
On Bahara?
Yes.
They don't eat right.
Very succinct.
I suppose I was able to keep up, the Kai says.
Honestly, I expected a bit more of a detailed explanation, but yeah, no, that's entirely fair. They don't eat right. They're not getting certain nutritional things they need as Bajorans, as a species.
Nah, all my complicated work is done. The more complicated part is why their grains don't have the dietary requirements that they do need. Either way, that's a question for a botanist, and luckily we don't really need to understand that part of it to fix it. It'd be
although
nice.
it can help.
Nodding a bit, she says, but they're not in any immediate danger.
No, but what they are looking at is a future of increasing degenerative conditions, which is, quite frankly, semi-horrific. They need to be convinced to either shift their diet to something that is better and more balanced, more nutritionally complete, or we need to modify the grains that they're using. Again, we can't do this without asking them. I think Commander Desesh is a little apprehensive that they might be a little resistant to change given their traditional and religious values of an agrarian society.
I may have some new information on other avenues that we might want to explore as well. Kasara and I made a little trip to the sun.
We had figured that the quickest and most efficient way to get them to adapt would be to consult their religious leadership. If we can get him to agree to a simple solution, the rest will fall in line, no problem.
What did you find out at the sun? Captain says.
Do 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 do.
Desesh looks uncomfortable for a minute. I take it we're reading the Kai in then?
The Kai arches her eyebrow, and
The captain looks at Desesh like, "They're her species just like they're yours, Commander."
Captain, this was pretty high level Starfleet intel stuff. I'm not coming up with this for no reason. I wasn't even allowed to find this information, so I don't really feel comfortable talking about it in front of non-Starfleet personnel.
With the bit of a shadow smile, the Kai says, "That's quite all right. Lord knows I don't need to go around looking for more things to add to my plate."
The captain.
We also have two captains here that, if they feel it's okay to include the Kai, then there's your affirmation right there. And then she'll look at
That's what I'm
Nira
waiting.
and Chakotay.
Is there any way you can give your explanation without the classified bits?
All right. I found something that may be causing the variations in the sun. And if it were to be eliminated, we might be able to get a more stable ecosystem on the planet over the long term. Certainly, we will still have to treat the conditions, but it's possible that whatever it is that's causing the heat up, that is causing the nutritional problem, it's fixable. It may be artificial in nature.
The captain will nod.
The Sesh nods at the Kai. That works.
And the Kai nods back as she says, what does she say? She says, would you prefer I leave the room so you may discuss the classified bits as well?
I think we're probably returning to the Nightingale, I would think.
I will fill Chakotay in, and if he thinks it's right, he'll fill you in, Kai, also, if that's acceptable.
The Kai simply looks a little amused as she says, "Of course."
Screw it, I will take out of character. I will take it out of my hands, and that's the most diplomatic way to do it. I'll leave it Chakotay's choice.
That's fair. Then, and speaking of Chakotay, as he ceases his leaning back and starts to pivot a little bit forward, he says, "Well, in which case, if there's nothing else, if there's nothing else, I should probably start to get the Voyager ready for her journey."
Of course,
I'll
Captain.
take that as dismissal. Get up.
As you guys are all standing, the Kai takes reaches into her tunic and takes out a standard data pad. As she kind of rested on the table between Morgana and Desesh, as she says, this moving forward, should either of you have need of me, this is my personal and direct communications line. I would prefer it. I would prefer it if you were to use this instead of going through official channels.
Kai?
Thank you, Your Eminence.
And
as they go to walk out, Nira will come up to.
Before that happens,
Okay.
before anyone starts moving, you all can see Arso look out the window towards the planet, and she looks back and says, another colony of wayward Bajorans. Good job," she says, looking at all of you.
Thank you, Your Eminence. And it was a pleasure meeting you for the first time.
You can call me Arso or Kai Arso if you must.
Of course.
Right, are we going to leave yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay, first she's gonna look at Chakotay and say, "Oh yeah, don't cross the mermaids. It's probably a bad idea." And she'll walk up next to Desesh and say, "So you left on a shuttle with my daughter?" And she'll just kind of like clasp his hand on her shoulder, like, you know, the mocking stern mother thing.
I was a perfect gentleman.
I'm sure you were.
Jill's hiding a shit-eating grin.
I'm sure you were, Commander.
Mhm. She was actually extremely helpful, and I have to say that she was the one that did most of the scanning. So this is, her discovery.
Oh? Well, she does like to be helpful, she says. And she is very smart. She gets that from me, she says with a grin.
Mm-hmm.
Her humbleness, too.
So can we return to the Nightingale?
Absolutely. And actually,
Yeah.
as you guys all kind of file out and hit the transporter room and get back aboard your own ship, the five of you are actually just exiting the transporter room when you know what? I should ask, who is gonna lead the way out of the transporter room? Who's my eager beaver?
Probably the captain.
Alrighty. In which case, could Captain Morgana and Risha Moset please make me an opposed fitness con roll?
Oh, this will be hilarious.
Forgive me, did you say fitness con or presence con?
Fitness con.
Gymnastics as a focus.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay then. So, I need to reset the APIs, but technically you did gain 2 momentum off that exchange. Would you like to do anything about that complication?
Nope. The captain's about to fall flat on her old ass.
Oh, goody. And let me just bring it
I'd
back.
say if it is a getting bumped into somebody and falling backwards, Jill would make an attempt to catch.
Oh, nope. With the complication, I'm gonna bogard that as
Okay.
the doors slide open, and Morgana, my eager beaver, everyone else can see her stride out of the turbo lift. I'm sorry, the transporter room doors. Just as Moset comes, her kind of portrait comes into focus, walking across the door, and as the
Is there a
two-
map?
I'm using. Oh, whoops.
I was trying to get it.
There you go. As the rest of you see Morgana kind of collide with Moset, you can see that the Moset almost kind of looks completely immoving as the lift captain kind of completely loses her balance and ends up basically taking a bit of a spill right on her tushy in front of Desesh and Jill and Vanderveer and Hakuri.
Yeah, you just get. Oh,
Well, I'll give a hand to the captain. Uh,
she'll take it and stand up and say, "Wow, I didn't know we had battering rams for crew members."
Ms. Massett, uh, it's good to run into you. I actually was hoping that we might be able to get your input on a tractor beam issue.
In what regard?
We may have to pull something, and it's in a situation with some interference, and, well, I need an engineer.
There's just like a slight pause, and then you see her kind of get a little stiff, and she says, "Very well, I'll see to it."
If you come along, we'll give you a better understanding of what we're talking about.
Shall I have Kasara meet you in one of the engineering labs? She says, kind of partially rubbing her butt because it hurts.
You can alert Kasara, but I want to make sure that we fill you in on this, Captain. So perhaps we could have a quick meeting first. I think ultimately you're going to be the one to have to make the call as to whether we proceed with this.
She nods. Very
Can we
well.
relocate to the lab?
Absolutely. You know what? I'm bringing you all. You're all going to the lab.
Yeah, I think so. That's what's happening. Lab party.
Fair enough.
And she'll hit her comm badge and call Kasara there too.
Alrighty. I am just copying. Oops, that's not what I meant to do.
Ow!
Dodge that bullet.
There we go. I have copied, and now this time I'll remember to move the map. Oh my god, that's the wrong map. Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoopsies. There we go. Serves me right.
We're in the meeting room.
Oh, you're right.
We're going to the
said
lab.
Yeah.
Did that. There we
Here
go.
we go.
Here we are. Hi, Duncan.
Oh, why not? We'll say Duncan's there too.
Oh,
Oh, here's-
everybody didn't.
Ah,
He points at himself. Do I need to leave?
Probably not.
he's Starfleet, so I won't talk about him.
He's civilian.
Oh, is he? Well,
The thing is the understanding is if they're on this ship, they have clearance.
Yeah, he's your civilian. He isn't a regular civilian.
yeah. We've gone over that, but and the fact is that I want Duncan to be back on this because he's our animal guy too. So the part that I couldn't talk about in in mixed company, it's the obelisk. We found we found the theoretical signature stone of this particular facsimile system. It's currently hovering, and Kasara determined that it's quite possibly causing additional instability in the sun by its presence. It's sitting in that sensor blind spot that we went out and took a look at. It's just sitting there, but as long as it's sitting there, it looks like it's causing additional instability in the sun, and might be what's causing the additional heat rash that's affecting the plant life down on the planet.
Yeah, it is kind of. This is Kasara. By the way, there is a very. There's a Romulan in the room, Moset, that looks eerily like the captain. This, by the way, is her daughter. But she'll look and say, Well, the thing about it is whatever is causing it to be, well, invisible, I feel is having an effect on the magnetic rate of the sun. She says it's causing it to have more solar flares, which, isn't. It's not to an extreme, but obviously it's enough.
And there doesn't
kind
seem
of-
to be. Sorry.
What kind of orbit is this object in? Is it synchronous to the planet? Is it on a low solar orbit?
Well, if I had to guess, I would say it's stationary in between, well, closer to the sun than the planet, but it's causing the sun to give off weird pulses, he says.
There doesn't seem to be anything that's unnaturally holding it in its position, though. We could theoretically tractor it out of there. I don't know if the sensor blind spot would move with it, but it's quite possible we could move it far enough from the sun.
If the object is that small and it's that close to the sun, it should have an orbital period of. She chilled things over for a couple seconds. A number of minutes for an orbit. So if it's staying relative position to Bahara, then there is something holding it in place. Otherwise, it would just fall in.
You would think. We haven't seen any evidence of that, but it's not putting off any energy that we can see, other than perhaps whatever that sensor blind spot is.
Also, to be fair, I wouldn't, out of just sheer survival instinct, I wouldn't want to throw myself that close to the sun in a shuttle. She says, kind of like, yeah, that was probably the stupidest thing I've done in my life.
Well, if we make use of the Nightingale, we should be able to move it, ideally to perhaps one of the other orbital bodies, where it's not going to cause disruption to the sun.
What is the solar altitude?
It was like a kilometer or two, wasn't it? Like from the sun.
That sounds like a lot more dangerous than I pictured in my head.
was-
But okay.
It was in the upper corona. It is within. Once you deal with all the other kind of issues with sending a tractor beam into the sun, it is within range of that. However, this is a situation where the GM doesn't have enough real life physics knowledge to be able to give you a good specific number.
Then here's the
Corona.
theoretical. Is it high enough that the metaphysics shielding from the Enterprise would allow the Nightingale to get close enough?
That's interesting. I'll say yes.
Oh, we can bring the ship close enough. There's enough data from the Enterprise that we can adjust our shielding to handle the sun's heat. We would only need a few minutes worth of time to grab out the tractor beam and bring it out.
Well, and here's your problem, Kasara says, kind of leaning against the console. You can do that. That is true. But you risk bringing some of the solar surface with you. And while that may not cause a problem for the planet, even with your shields, as good as they are, it's going to have issues. And second, how are you going to target something that small with no sensors?
Visually.
Joel nods over at Desesh. Triangulate it visually. Tractor beam doesn't have to have an object lock. We just have to have a spatial lock. And if we don't have the ability to tractor it, we scoop it with the shuttle bay.
I think it's probably a better idea to keep it outside of the ship if we can, just because I don't really understand this technology. But I was thinking we could just put it on one of these gas giants or something and keep it out of the way.
Not for nothing, but technically you have 2 tractor beams. Well, you have a lot more than that, but 2 for sure, yeah? Kasara says, looking between the officers.
3.
That might work if you fire them all at the same time. And the captain just kind of looks at her daughter like, whose ship is this? Mine or yours? Kind of thing.
That would also require the ship to separate in all 3 parts.
She nods. And the captain says, well, we've never actually tried that before, she says. And I don't...
The battle.
We only just split into 2. This time we're splitting all 3.
Excellent. I forgot that.
It would take a little bit of coordination to make sure that all 3 sections have the adequate shielding, and then proper positioning of the ships. Our exposure time would be higher.
We could actually do if we're concerned about exposure time, we could do some sort of a relay where we pass it amongst the various ships to limit the amount of time that any one of them
shakes her head. All 3 ships would need to be grabbing at the same time to make sure we have the actual object and not just stellar mass.
Kasara nods.
perhaps in the initial moments.
No, you'd have to keep track of it the whole way, and you'd have to put it into. When you pull it out, you'd have to move it to a space of open. She gets it right, but open space, and then you can shift to the one tractor beam. But until then, all 3 have to be going at the same time, moving in sync. And the captain will look at Risha and say, Miss Moset, right? Engineer?
That's correct, ma'am.
She nods. Well, do you think you can work a way to sync all of the shields properly? Maybe give the other 2 sections a couple more minutes, just in case.
The Prometheus is an interesting ship. I will endeavor to complete this properly.
She nods. Right. So we split apart. And she'll turn to Jill and Kiana and says, do you think you can rig up a program to fire all the tractor beams at the same time?
Yeah.
I'd like to hear from the doctor on this, given that our intentions, be they benign, are like intended, and similarly with Duncan, like. Do you think that this is something that we need to do in order to try and, I'm only speculating at the moment that this is necessary in order to try and heal the genetic damage that's going on the planet. Could you speak to that?
Duncan will shrug and say, hey, if that thing up there is what's causing the sun to cook everything down here, and he points outwards, then he points downwards. Then if that's what's causing the problem, and we move what's causing the problem, everything we have says it should work. It'll take about a year or so to recover, but it'll definitely be a long-term answer.
Doc?
If that is the cause of the problem, then it rectifies itself. That's one thing. Granted, we are messing with their star. We might want to run it by their leadership first. Let them know, hey, in the event that we kind of screw up, you might want to be ready for something weird to happen. And for the process itself, I can set the labs up for any overexposures to radiation or thermal injury.
Joe will speak up. It's like, well, it's going to take a little bit of time to coordinate this anyways. It's going to be enough to at least speak with them if anything.
We still have to give our big "you have a problem" talk to the Baharans. They don't even know that there's a problem at the moment.
The captain nods and says, well, since the sun is your show, Disesh, I don't mind relaying that information, she says.
All right.
And
Perhaps-
she'll... Oh, go ahead.
Perhaps you and the doctor then go and talk them through it while we try to resolve the problem up here.
Sounds like a plan, she says.
We'll get it.
Alphonse... Oh, sorry. Oh, she just says, Alphonse, fancy a trip back down to the planet?
Sure.
Captain, we'll await your order before we proceed.
And consider it a... do it at your earliest convenience, she says.
You don't want to wait for the Kai's consent?
She looks and says, no, I'm hedging on the bet that I can get his consent, she says.
All right, we'll proceed then.
She nods. Kasara looks around at everybody and says, so, where do we start?
As the guy with Science 1, I look at Jill.
Well, while Miss Massette works on the tracked beams, you and I can work on the shield coordination together afterwards. I'll set up the approach vector. It'll be much safer if we send the Nightingale in whole until we get within range, and afterwards we can separate and start retrieving the object. Once we have it, we'll have our vector back out and start putting it somewhere safe.
I'll take the bridge and I'll coordinate the crews for the various sections so that we have the people that we need in place.
Well, I suppose it's back to math equations for me, she says. Anybody patch me down a view of the window? She says. Because the one place she hasn't been is the bridge. She actually keeps to that. She does not go to the bridge unless asked, and nobody's asked her.
Actually, she's been through the bridge because she went to the ready room that one time.
Oh, well, yeah. Let's put it this way, she hasn't used the bridge for anything more than a walkway.
Just cause, why not? I did it once. As Morgana and Dr. Vanderveer start to leave the room, why don't I have an opposed fitness security or fitness con between Captain Morgana and Gustav Carlson.
Oh, Christ. Alright,
More?
What's up?
Oh, I was thinking impromptu some more.
I guess, yeah. Nope. Here we go.
Alrighty, as you gain another momentum off the exchange, Doctor, as you and Morgana stride towards the whatchamacallit, exit door, all of the sudden, as it opens and she goes bursting out of it, it just doesn't appear to be her day, because as timing would have it, Commander Goodman has brought in the two transfers from Voyager, having picked them up and asked the computer where the captain was and directing them here. And
According to Alexa Answers contributor,
I'm sorry.
a children released in 1963 by Morris
Computer, stop.
My apologies. As it has directed them here, Gustav, you see you see a woman that you've just, she's run into you, and she starts to go flailing backwards as you see the pips on her collar, denoting her the captain of the ship.
She's in the process of falling.
Yeah, more like stumbling backwards. I think it's not as bad as last time, but she's certainly in danger of potentially losing her balance.
You're right. This isn't her day to day.
He'll reach forward and snatch at the fabric at the front of her uniform.
Absolutely, and I'm not gonna make you. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go complication fishing.
Oh Jesus!
Give me a control or daring or fitness with con or security. Difficulty 1.
Was this a job?
What's up?
Making a joke. No.
I'm gonna spend some threat. Complication range 3.
Okay, let me grab a third dice for momentum.
All right.
Not bad.
Gaining 2 momentum, everyone can see Gustav instantly whip his arm out and kind of lightly stabilize the captain by kind of grasping the front of her tunic without, unfortunately, without enough strength to cause it to rip, but everyone can see the captain kind of right herself as Goodman, looking like he's trying to stifle a bit of an amused grin, says, Captain, this is Gustav, Gustav Carlson and Remora Blank. These are our 2 security transfers from the Voyager.
She straightens up her tunic and jacket and everything, and it's like, well. Terrible first impressions aside, welcome to the Nightingale. She's like,
Remora gives you a crisp nod and says, "Thank you, Captain. It's a pleasure to be here."
she just looks over Remora and say, "Oh, you're going to be another one, aren't you?" She says with a smirk.
Yes,
Seems like
Captain.
a convenient security detail, Captain.
She looks back at the commander, and then looks back at Remora, looks back at the commander, and sighs. Very well. I suppose your first assignment is an away mission, so come along.
The whole time, Carlson's kind of surprised by the whole encounter. His mouth is slightly open. He's nodding along. Yes, Captain. It's essentially looking kind of dumb.
What is his rank?
Lieutenant. In
Lieutenant.
fact, I wouldn't even be against Lieutenant Junior grade.
Well, she'd still call him Lieutenant. Lieutenant, believe me, you're not in any trouble. Hell, that wasn't even the first time I was knocked down today.
Remora. kinda-
Seeing the group leave the lab, Jill's actually going to step over towards Desesh and she'll ask lowly, but not quietly. How many transfers are we supposed to be receiving?
I think it's just the two. Those are the only two that they mentioned by name.
She's still looking out over at the doors after they closed. That puts us overweight on the security department for a medical ship. She's just musing at this point.
Yeah, we'll have to do our best to try and accommodate. We might even have to put some hollow crew on standby. We've got the space at least.
No, of course we have the space. It's
I
I
get it.
have the odd feeling that we're being prepared for something entirely different the ship was intended for.
Well, if this is a medical ship, I would suggest getting the brunette scanned. She says, honestly, I think she's a freaking robot. Did you see how still she stood? Ugh. I haven't seen Romulan officers stand that still.
Well, I'll
Would you
check
like-
the personnel files, see if there's anything unusual in them first. And they'll still need a physical once they're established anyways.
Kisara, would you like to work from the bridge?
She looks back at the commander and says, why, you got a station for me?
At the moment, and I need someone who, has an idea what's going on that can translate it for me. I think Jill can handle things down here.
She nods.
She nods.
Looks across to Kiana and Duncan. I think we can manage.
Yeah, sure. She'll walk over and start heading with the sesh then to the science station.
Alrighty, and as the teams break up a little bit, now we'll go a little bit into segmentation, and let's. I think probably the most difficult part, at least this second, is probably what continues to go on in the lab. As Desesh and Kisara head to the bridge to start bringing the ship closer to the sun, and Morgana and Vanderveer and Carlson and Blank, as the four of them beam down to Bahara, we don't actually have to go anywhere, as we will stay within the lab as Jill, Kiana, and Moset gather together to start trying to, well, fiddle some of this mathematics. So, I um if memory serves, we've got a couple different issues. We've got to kind of link up all of these sessions, um, and oh, believe me, you two are definitely gonna be brought in during the actual operation.
I assumed that we would probably need someone on each of the bridges, but you know.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh,
we're gonna
yeah.
Actually, before you guys decided to stay in the lab, the lab was the third bridge. So, in terms of the biolab bridge, we'll just either them on that one and say someone's on there. But down in the lab, we need to pretty much sync up the computers. I know I was upstairs and was slightly distracted during the main thrust of that conversation, but I believe what you guys are trying to do is essentially split up the ship, dip in, tractor it, and pull it out.
Slightly different. Ship goes in, ship splits up, gets in position, tractors it out.
You want to split up inside of the Corona.
Yep.
Okay. Well then let's start with that avenue first. Now, because just in my own head as I'm thinking, I think probably the weak point of that plan that would need to be shorn up is when the ship physically separates. I think that there may be some issues as the ship starts to break apart, and suddenly you're gonna need 3 shield bubbles as opposed to 1. I think
Yes. What Jill's at least going to try to lead them down is the Nightingale goes in intact with the metaphasic shields activated, and then once the ship is in position and they start to separate, all 3 ships as they move away, very large shield bubble until the critical point where all 3 ships, the shield bubbles just snap around each of the ships.
okay.
Okay, when you say snap around, do you mean each one shares the same bubble, or do you mean each individual segment has its own bubble?
Each segment has its own bubble.
Okay.
Because while the ships are close together, they can each contribute to the general field. But once they get farther away, maintaining that as a whole field is just not going to happen. And they will eventually like I said, snapping is just the best way I can explain of how each ship is just maintaining its own shield after that.
Yeah.
Oh, it mitosis.
Mhm.
Yes, actually, that is a good way to put it. We are mitosing the shields.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm gonna do with that.
And I will say the coordination of the 3 ships should not be an issue at all because Prometheus was designed to have all 3 sections automated through one bridge console anyways.
Absolutely, and I don't think that the issue is the coordination. I think the issue is the moment of the actual snap and how much heat gets shunted in through that. So here's what I'm gonna do. When it comes time to actually do the maneuver, right now I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna put the complication range at 5. Now you're pre-planning right now. The successes that you get are gonna whittle that complication range down. So I want to say, and someone could probably argue, should they want to, but I think we're looking at a reason engineering. No difficulty. But the momentum point is going to be after 5. So if you get more than 5, then that's when you'll start gaining momentum. But let's see how good we can prep ourselves for that maneuver.
Well, I would like to direct the action.
You,
Using.
sir, are not in the room.
Oh, so this is separate to what I'm doing. Okay.
Yes, this is going on in the lab.
Like an overall team effort. But okay, go ahead.
All right. How much momentum do we have?
4
4.
momentum, 4 threat.
All right. Considering I get a couple of re-rolls, does I know my ship apply?
I'm thinking.
It's a free die when, by the book, it's troubleshooting problems with the ship.
Sorry, I'm still thinking. Yeah, I'll take it.
All right. So reason engineering, take 2 threat, and no, flip that. Take 3 threat and 2 momentum, and that's going to be all 5 dice. We also have the ship assisting us.
Let's hold off on the ship. I'd rather, since there's 2 other player characters, I'd rather one of them assist.
That's fair.
All right, you got a 0, a 1, a 1, a 2, and a 2.
Reroll that 0.
God damn.
Oh, you get to roll too, Moset.
Oh, right.
That's why we have 2 That's why we have 2 momentum left over. The complication is we have 2 momentum left over, and I have a second reroll once we figure out if the ship is going to assist. So
at this point,
Moset,
I'm gonna say no. You've already gotten
Okay.
past the task roll, and there's still an assist left. So no.
then 2 momentum to squash it.
Alrighty, and you managed to gain 1 momentum out of that exchange, and we still have an assist.
Moset, go ahead and there you go.
Okay then, gaining 2 momentum. You, as the Jill, as you start to kind of bend over and start figuring this out. Moset, you kind of hit the next console over, and between the 2 of you, kind of glancing over at each other's works, finding different avenues with which to kind of direct the problem. You realize that this maneuver is not really all that difficult, and you know what, why not? In fact, as one of you has a light bulb moment and likens it to cellular mitosis, taking a cue from how the cell walls manage to split without breaching, you kind of model the shielding after that, and as you kind of both manage to reach the answer at the same time, you both look up and realize that this actually isn't that hard of a maneuver.
It helps when somebody's very familiar with the ship.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Hard to believe that she runs 3 departments.
Well, we all can't be blessed with immortality. Yet.
And
You call it immortality, I call it longevity, because technically I can still die. She has longevity. It's not immortality. But yes, I get your point.
She
She is old. Not quite as old as you'd think, but she is old.
Nah, she's only as old as dirt, not as old as space.
she's getting there. And speaking of that old bat, let's.
Her boyfriend is old as space.
Let's
That's
actually.
fine. I'm
Wait.
walking inside anyways.
Mazette's eyes kind of squint for like a little bit. And did you actually say that out loud?
I think she's in the room.
The captain's not in the room.
no, we're just rambling. Moving.
Oh, I thought I was gonna make something. I was actually gonna make like a really funny joke. Sorry.
Well, do so anyways, because I want to laugh.
Wait. And she kind of turns towards her curry. The Q's actually real?
Yeah.
I thought that was a no. No.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
There are many things that are only fairy tales that are actually true.
Well, if we ever come across that Imagic, I would plan to ensure the safety of the crew.
Good idea.
No, very noble.
I swear, I think Marjorie's the only person in any of these games that has a good relationship with Q.
You can blame Jake for the mermaid's outlook.
But as that's going on in the lab, why don't we take a snapshot down to Bahara itself, where the captain, the doc, and Remora and Kessler,
Carlson.
I am sorry. Remora and Gustav have beamed down as well, and it doesn't take very long to find the Kai. He is a couple of paces away from the entrance of the building, which houses the orb in the basement.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
No. You continue.
She'll walk over to him and say, hi, might I have a moment of your time?
Oh, of course, he says. And as he looks to the kind of throng of people that are surrounding him, the half dozen people, he says, would you prefer a moment with only me?
Yes.
And he turns his head a little bit and says, you heard our visitor. Go on. And the people disperse without any rancor or anything of that ilk.
Well, it's moments like this she's glad they can't feel aggression. Yeah, she'll kind of like ask, did everybody else leave?
Yeah, it's just the Kai and the four of you.
Well, you remember the medical scans and the tests we did with you earlier, she says.
Medical scans? He says with kind of a cocked face and a look of confusion on his head.
Earlier, when we were speaking, she says, and she'll kind of mimic the the finger movement she was doing with his eyes.
And you actually see as you're doing that, his eyes, instead of tracking your finger, seem to be going the exact opposite.
As if their brain was firing the opposite direction. Like her finger went one way, his eyes went the other.
Yeah, but give me... You know what? Why don't the both of you give me an insight medicine difficulty 2?
I will spend momentum.
Way to go, Captain.
I'm assuming focus in neurology is going to kick in here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me go ahead and grab a third dice as well for a momentum, please.
Yeah, she was the CMO of the Gungnir before she was captain of the Nightingale, so...
So... I can't remember if this is actually true or not, but I'm going to say that it is. As the two of you see that, you can see that his eye almost initially starts to track the finger and then purposefully goes in the opposite direction. And as you replay that in a second, you realize that as he looked at the captain confused about the medical scan, he was looking up and left, which typically...
Yeah.
So, in short, the two of you realize that he's playfully messing with you guys a little bit.
Yeah, he's sticking with us. She just sighs and says, "Right, I walked into that one."
Giving you a bit of a shrug and a chuckle, he says, "I'm so sorry, but they know all my tricks by now."
No, that's fair. That being said, there was something anomalous with your scan, she says.
He certainly looks less amused.
And the scan of everyone we scanned at our makeshift hospital. She says,
Now he looks very less amused as he says, "Are we in danger?"
Not immediate danger, no. But the doctor here has a solution for that, at least in the short term, and currently the commander, the Bajoran gentleman you met earlier, is currently trying to figure out a long-term solution, she says.
What's wrong with us, Doctor?
The food crops on your planet are dietarily deficient in necessary nutrients, at the risk of sounding redundant, which is developing at this point, minor and mild, but potentially serious degenerative muscular and neurological condition.
Is there something that we should be eating that we've been lacking?
No, at least not intentionally. Something is affecting your crops in a way that is removing something that should be there. or at least reducing its bioavailability to a point it can't be absorbed properly.
Is you mentioned both short-term solution and a long-term solution. I have to say, Doctor, by and large, I believe we are a healthy people. I obviously your knowledge is greater than ours. We don't um, we don't uh, drive to succeed in that specific field the way you must. But um, what do we do now?
Well, short and medium term, we can simply add this in as a dietary supplement or enrichment process for your food storage. Long term, some of our scientists believe that the issue is beginning at your son.
Will we be? Should we start thinking about whether or not we leave Bahara?
No, our goal is that you don't have to leave this planet. We wanted to simply make you aware, and to get your permission to fix the problem, she says.
I didn't even know there was one, so I don't see who I would be to stand blockade to a solution. Is there anything we can do to help?
I know a lot of people, especially those who are generally unfamiliar with medicine or nutrition, as most people usually are. They have a level of resistance to adding something, taking supplements, or allowing their food to be altered in any way. We were hoping you would introduce this idea to your people. If you recommended it, it would go over a lot smoother than outsiders like us telling them what they needed to do for their health.
Precisely.
As with the scans, I'll have to insist. Well, how long does it take to take effect, this addition to our food?
It should have an immediate reduction of the symptoms. I understand you haven't noticed them yet, but there's a condition that humans can get called scurvy, which is a vitamin deficiency that can effectively be stopped, halted, and reversed by vitamin C introduced within several hours.
Nodding a bit, he says, then I will insist on the same situation as the scans. Would you be willing to treat me? And then if after, as you say, a couple hours, we should note the effect. If after a day or two I have no ill effects, I will of course recommend this to my people. They're my people.
The captain will look at the doctor and say, so, granola bar or vitamin?
Not knowing what a granola bar is he looks confused as
Peter, quit it.
remembering the medical scan. Actually, he just kind of stands up straight in front of the two of you, kind of preparing himself for it.
She'll just smile sweetly at the Kai and say, there's no need for that, she says.
Okay, he says, as he just kind of waits patiently to receive further instructions.
Yeah, the captain was basically asking, did the doctor want this to be in an edible form or pill?
Oh,
Or the Kai, we could just administer a supplement here.
Very well.
Well, the Kai is certainly waiting patiently for whatever treatment the doctors recommend.
Reach into his pocket and pull out a small tube with a couple tablets in it.
And as he grabs it or takes it from you, he looks at it and kind of gives it a quick little shake. As he says, "Do I take all of these?"
One should be fine. They're chewable. Tastes like grapes.
As he opens the canister and kind of holds it up to his face, looking at it first and then doing a quick sniff of it.
It's fruit flavored. The doctor will clarify, because he's Bahar and he probably doesn't know what the hell a grape is.
Nope, despite them growing probably 100 feet away, he has no idea what a grape is. Or at least what a grape is called. And as he pops the tablet in his mouth and chews it a little bit, you see him take kind of a experimental swallow, and then a larger one as he kind of gives a quick little cough and says, "Oh, that's a little powdery, but it tastes good, doctor. Thank you."
Now, in a few hours, it should take effect. So. Which I'm guessing for that, the captain and the doctor can stay there and monitor him while the rest do their solar fun.
And speaking of the solar fun, let's flip back to the bridge real quick, where we've got Desesh and Kisara, and as Deers turns back to you, Desesh, and says, "Commander, we're approaching the outer corona now, where we should be able to make entry in about 2 minutes."
Oh, he's muted. Wonder if he knows.
Stand station keeping here now, and we'll wait for Lawson to give us the all clear on the preparations.
I'll stop engaged, Captain. As you see,
Wander over to Kisara, who's like in direct communication with the team down there, and just sort of look to see how things are going.
Yep. At the moment, she is furiously sliding her fingers over Elkar's. You can see her mouth things and then tap onto the Elkars and finally she looks up and says, "Oh, sorry, I was doing math. Was I supposed to? I apologize."
I'm sure it takes a little bit of adjusting. This isn't the system you're used to.
She kind of chuckles a bit and says, "I appreciate your concern, Commander, but I was programming out Federation Elcars at 5. She says, "No, it's the..." She'll point to the main view screen and she'll say, "Do you mind?"
No, by all means. That's why I
She'll-
invited you up here. It's the best view on the ship.
Well, I'm gonna have to take it for a moment. And she'll throw up what she's doing very quickly. And basically, she'll say, "So, I apologize for the rambling I'm about to do, but the issue I'm having is basically trying to sorry, my brain is blanking on the word. Compensate for the magnetosphere of the sun." She says it's going to throw off the tractor beams by a few degrees, but those degrees could be critical, and she looks down and then she smacks her head and just, "Oh, -4 tangent. Never mind, Commander." You'll see her on the view screen. She'll type in the thing and the equation will go green.
Sesh seems to just sort of be following along on the big screen. Well, whatever that thing is, I certainly don't want to break it.
Well, Tasesh, I'm fairly sure you wouldn't want to touch it at all if anything. There's no telling what kind of exotic energy is coming off the damn thing.
If you're not going to call me Commander, call me Araj.
Fair enough, Araj.
We're if we move this thing, do we think that the dead zone's going to move with it?
Well, I don't want to say I'm positive of it, but I'd give it in at least a 64.852 chance that it will.
Kind of sounds like we don't know. But, all right.
Well, why don't you give me
It's better than 50-50.
Why don't you give me an insight reason, difficulty 2?
Inside science,
Thank you.
because insight reason is impossible. Astrophysics as a focus.
Yes.
Okay.
I knew the
Take-
answer was yes. It just took me a little too long to get there.
What's the difficulty on it?
2. Dose. Ni.
Well, knowing the way this game is, this might be her only roll for the night. So, determination. My brain is my best weapon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then we will do a threat and no, 2 threat and a momentum for the third die, and here we go. She has bold science.
Giving you an extra momentum, which I will make you guys use now, but you know that without a doubt that if this is actually the Preserver Obelisk, then yes, the negative space will most certainly move with it. If it's something else, then God only knows.
Yeah. Then she'll add, assuming it is what you think it is, there's almost a 100% chance it'll move. Barring that, I have no telling. There's no way of knowing. It'll be significantly less.
Well, our first move will be just tow it out into dead space, so we don't have to worry about it interacting with anything. But I think we should make clear what it's doing before we put it anywhere near, like, another celestial body.
She will look at him and says, well, when you figure out how to scan it, that'll be an excellent scientific discovery, she says with a smirk. Clearly just trying to, like, bust his chops, but also be helpful.
Right, we're not going to be able to scan it. Maybe throw something at it?
Let's talk bonus momentum.
Yeah. Bonus momentum, she has enough information to triangulate the obelisk thing.
You kind of already have that. It's in. You have the meter of dead space. I'll say, out of character, a scanning beam will not pierce that while it's in the sun, and you know that.
Yeah, what I'm asking is that when we make the tractor beam roll, because she wasn't using the scanners, she was doing quantum math and eyeballing it. I just want her eyeballing to be right. She's like, all right, if you blind aim your tractor beams there, you're going to hit it.
Advantage. You're creating an advantage that will give some sort of...
Yes, make it a little less hectic to try and grab it.
All right. Then why don't we put it like this? In a way to transform that into a mechanical thing. When it comes time to engage the tractor beams, let's have. I will say that Kasara has one free D20 because when it comes to the actual operation, I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna do the thing where I get most of you involved and I add your successes together. So
that's fair.
I'll say that Kasara gets a free D20. Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay, and as the two of you kind of chat this over, let's pop back down to the lab, and we've got Jill, Hakiri, Moset realizing that, or probably getting some sort of update that the ship is holding position just outside of the sun's corona.
Okay. We have the shields figured out. The automation positioning, that's not a factor. Sounds like they've got the tractor beams figured out. I think that's all that's left is to start executing the plan. Kiana, you feel confident with the biolab?
Yeah.
All right. How about you? And she'll glance over to Duncan, who's been standing there off to the side. You and Duncan can head to the biolab. Risha, if you don't mind, I'll take you with me to the beta section, and we'll get in position to be ready to separate.
Understood. Copy.
I still like the fact that that's the NX bridge.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
bridge.
And as everyone filters to their positions, okay. You know what? We'll say Goodman looks over to you and says, Commander. Oh, to answer that, it was the directly after the. If you're not gonna call me Commander, I don't know. For some reason, it sounded like a pickup line.
All right.
At least one that I wouldn't mind trying to use, but I can't do that anymore, so it's okay.
Better not.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, as I said, Goodman looks over to you, Commander, and he says, Commander, it looks like everyone's in position. We've got Hakiri staffing the biolab bridge, and Lawson's taking Mosette to the beta bridge. It appears like it's time for you to call the ball.
All right. Everyone's in position. Prepare to execute. Kasara, are you taking the tractor beam, or should I take this myself? Feeling comfortable?
He says it's your ship, Arash, not mine.
All right. I'll wander over to the ops station then and take a seat. All right. All three sections on my mark. Engage.
And
all right, we're executing the plan.
And with those magic words, you can see Deers start to pilot the ship closer and closer, and as the largely looming sun gets, quite frankly, even more large and even more looming, and the entire bridge from the view screen, all three view screens, start to glow almost in eerily orange. Actually, perhaps making Mosette slightly more comfortable on the bridge for the first time in ever, as the lighting starts to look a little bit more appropriate to your own upbringing, and as somebody on each of the three bridges helpfully starts to filter out the brightness of the view screen, the sun loses a lot of its intensity, but continues to be this violent, writhing mass of hot gas that, is no longer something to look ahead to, but is now something that can be seen all around as the Nightingale starts to dip in closer and closer, and as it starts to separate, this is probably the time where I'm pretty much gonna kind of pack in the rolls, and here's what I am looking for. First of all, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a difficulty 13, because I'm hoping you guys are feeling lucky. Each person is gonna have a role. There will be no assists, and I can. So here's what I'm gonna want. For 3 of the roles, there's 5 of you, so there's two ways to just kind of fill in and help how you think it's good. The first one is going to be the ship separation slash my Tosel shield technique. I'm gonna be looking for a control engineering for that. Complication range, just regular 1 because you guys did that. Another of the 3 roles is going to be the tractor, which is going to be control science or control engineering. And lastly, the last role is going to be kind of the nebulous, can we get in and get out, which is going to be a either control or reason con. And I know none of you are actually physically piloting, but I'm just going to say one of you's helping the pilot because, well, quite frankly, this is a pretty big job. So we've got a control engineering, control or reason. I'm sorry. We've got a control engineering. We've got a control engineering or science, and a control or reason with con, and to kind of help where you can.
All right. I'll take the con roll if no one else is feeling confident in that.
Yeah,
Control engineering.
I was gonna argue a science roll as well, but for Kasara.
The science
That's
roll
a-
can be a tractor.
Yes, and remember, there's 2 open roles. So I've given you guys a lot of leeway with this to decide how you want to do it. If Kasara wants to help, for example, in some sort of sensor area while this is going on, even though I didn't mention it, that's okay. And I was just kind of using that as an example.
Yeah, I figure a reason science because obviously the sun's not going to stay the same constantly, so she's going to have to recalculate every few moments. So
I would like to argue I know what I'm doing as an opportunity to spend my determination on this.
I will take that.
Sorry?
I will take that.
Okay. All right. And I would like to spend 1 momentum, just because this is not my area of expertise.
You certainly have it.
Okay.
All right, so we're at 3.
We're at-
I'm gonna remember that I have 7 threat, and I'm gonna use the threat counter to count your successes. And I'm gonna take all the rolls first before I start describing what happened.
no, that's fair. I will give you 3 threat and spend 2 momentum. And here we go.
As I go up to 10 threat, and I saw the maintaining coordination. I think why don't we do a, you know what? Let's go with presence command for that. Or reason
Alright.
command.
That was an option. Anyway. Someone had to take the con.
All right. Let's see. Where's Edward's difficulty? 15 total, correct?
13, though, quite frankly, I'm at 10 threat, and you guys are already at 8 successes with 3 more rolls, so I can't promise the difficulty will stay at 13.
All right. Can I argue a creative use of I know my ship, considering its handling and it's making sure all 3 ships are doing as performed and starship maneuvers as a focus?
Focus, yes, and I will take the determination. Bring you up to 10 successes.
Oh, I haven't even gotten to there yet. I was asking about the free die for I know my
that's
ship.
the free die, yes, sorry. I always think that's a value. I apologize.
It's okay. And I'll shoot for it. The value. I can't lose focus again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'll answer your question in a second after this roll, Mosset.
There's a lot of close-ups as people are, acting the hell out of this particular moment.
Yeah, and 2 threat.
Bringing me up to 12. Sorry, I started tracking your stuff with the momentum, and I screwed everything up, but I'm putting it back to what it should be.
Also, hold on. I have one more thing. She had the free dice that I didn't use.
You rolled 5 dice anyways, so I'm not gonna.
Oh, fair enough.
I will give you. I'll put 2 threat back though.
Okay.
All right, so that's 2, 4, 6 in the roll. Bring you guys up. Oh yeah, the difficulty is definitely going up. I have to give 2 threat back, so I'm at 10 threat. I am gonna go down to 0 threat, and I'm gonna add 5 to the difficulty. So we're up to difficulty 18. We've got 16 successes. All right, now to answer your question, Mosset, please remind me, which section of this are you doing?
I believed I was helping with the physical separation of the ship.
Okay, then yeah, I would take a number of those focuses. I'll take starship design. That's or computers. Those are definitely the 2 that apply most.
And from my recollection, this was a control engineering.
Or reason.
Yes. All right. And then, do we have any momentum left?
Oh yeah, you have 5 momentum. I have 0 threat.
In that case, I would like to purchase 2 dice worth of threat, so that'd be 3 threat.
Yep.
Yes, I now have 3 threat.
All right.
Woot.
Okay, we still have one more roll to do.
Oh, hi. Are you hungry?
21.
Yeah, I'm being assailed right now.
Oh no. Alrighty, and lastly we have Hakiri.
Reason engineering good?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Computer science for value?
Do we actually have any momentum or no?
We have a ton. We have 5.
Sorry, I don't know that.
Oh, goodness. In that case, I would like to spend 1 momentum so that way collaboration engineering is in play.
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, that means that Hakiri can use your engineering score if it surpasses her own.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
And any focuses that are applicable. A single focus is applicable.
All right, that's fair. She already has a focus for it, so I'm not gonna. That's already covered. But Hakuri, instead of rolling with the engineering 3, you're gonna roll with an engineering 5, and you don't have to change anything on your sheet. I'll just double check the dice. But as it stands,
Oh, that's not food.
I'm gonna spend 2 threat to bump it up to difficulty 19. However, you're at 21 successes. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if you give me any threat, I'm gonna be bumping up the difficulty to.
use the momentum, people.
I'm
Near the end of the night.
spending 3 momentum. I can get 4 dice. And let's see what we got.
A lot is what you got. Let me just double check that other one. Nope, that's 17. Wait, 11, 16. No, that would not have helped. So, as you gain a total of 26 successes, let me just point out for a second that this is exactly double the starting difficulty. Which means the next time I do this, it's gonna get a shit ton harder. But okay, now to figure out what actually happened as the Nightingale, one ship from an outside observer simply gets swallowed into the sun, and as we zoom in a little bit and filter through, we can see that one ship is slowly starting to separate as it possibly the sun's gases and heat finally doing it in as it elongates and warps its structure until suddenly as the large shield bubble flares and allows entry to actually see what's going on in there, we can see that the top biolab is starting to pull out of the middle section just as the middle and bottom are starting to scissor away from each other. And as the moment of separation is complete and all 3 of these ships are physically unconnected to each other, they're still sharing that one shield bubble as they still pull away quite slowly but with purpose as the bubbles or the shield bubble starts to stretch and stretch, visibly being assaulted by everything going on in the sun. And as the bubble simply can't take it anymore, it simply snaps away as it encompasses the 2 other ships, making 3 from what was 1. And as there's not even a moment of heat transfer that the environmental controls can't contend with, the bridges stay awfully cool as Jill is checking her consoles, keeping an eye on each of the 3 ships as they maintain a crucial but important distance from each other, and as Desesh starts to feed the information to Deers to have the main middle Hulk start to spike out just a little bit further than the other 2. Curie and Moset start to ready the tractor beams, and as Kasara starts to lock down the final coordinates of where they should go, suddenly the 2 ladies, one Trill and one Cardassian, in unison hit their buttons from 2 other bridges as Kasara manages to flick over and hit the third. And as the 3 beams kind of lance out in unison, already programmed not to pull in any of the hot stellar mass, but just kind of sweep past it and lock on to its its prey. They suddenly hit this area of null void, and as the ships themselves arrest their own momentum and start to and as find purchase on this null zone, Jill over in the beta section sends a quick message to the alpha section as Desesh starts to feed Deers the information to slowly start kind of hoisting and pulling this object from the grips of the sun. And as the 3 ships start to pull slowly backwards, within less than a minute themselves exiting out of the sun, they can see on the scanners the reports of the stellar mass and gases kind of filling in from where the null zone is being pulled out from, until finally, with almost an angry, inaudible pop that everyone can imagine, it pulls out of the corona completely, and for a moment the 3 ships kind of lurch back but Jill and Desesh are there to kind of counter that. And as the Nightingale starts to cut its tractor beams and kind of float back in towards itself to reconnect, the image that can be seen against the backdrop of the sun is, quite clearly the same as Starfleet has seen at least 118 times before, just a different size, as there appears to be a meter tall obelisk fashioned just like all of the other ones that Starfleet thinks are have been left there by the preservers.
All right. I'm going to order. Once we feel we've got it in a position that one of the ships can take it over, I'm going to order it. Which ship? I guess Harkuri's the R&D person, so I'll just get Harkuri's section, the biolab, to tow it out into deep space, and or at least somewhere where there's not a lot of gravity interference, and where we can sort of study it before we decide whether or not it can be safely placed on one of the celestial bodies in the system.
Absolutely. Now, I will say, so far, one thing that would be in probably the files, certainly now that you've discovered one, is that so far Starfleet has not been able to determine what these are, how they operate, what they even do, what they're for, any of that.
Yeah, I'd like to find a place where it could be eventually studied and leave it accessible, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to put it on Bahara because I don't know if it's dangerous. So I'd rather one of the less inhabited bodies. I don't know.
Throw it on
Bahara...
Pluto.
What?
Throw it on Pluto. This is a replica of Sol. You can
That's
put
right.
it on Pluto.
So I was thinking the moon, but we could put it on Pluto. Yeah. But I'm going to wait for the captain to tell me that because, right now we're just investigating.
Indeed, and I'm actually gonna, because I know we're getting late. I think kind of the image of the gleaming obelisk against the sun is probably a good place to call it for tonight. One thing I want to say though, in case it wasn't clear earlier, Arso basically gave, if any of you want to call her, she basically gave you her phone number and said,
Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting the impression. Yes.
okay. And yeah, unless actually no, I think that's probably a good place to call it. Sorry it took me so long to get you in there, Moset. The meeting went on a little bit longer than I expected. That's
No, are you kidding me? I was enthralled.
excellent. But still, so just because I know you're kind of new to the group, kind of how you just kind of took part of that, even though I don't think we even really even though you're a civilian, yada yada yada. The way you kind of took a main part in the operation is kind of probably definitely going to be a repeatable thing. It just, like I said, I don't particularly care what the rank or position is. I'll find a way to get you on the team or an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
you could always just blame the Cardassian if it all goes bad.
I'm okay with this. I think Desesh will probably be okay with that too.
As long as they don't blame the Romulan, everything's good.
She did a great audition, so we can start to bring her in more often, and when contracts are renegotiated at the end of the season, which should be coming soon. We'll get you on the intro.
So next week, I will be giving you guys cause to leave Bahara. I'll be honest, I don't really want to still be in the Baharan system if we can avoid it past the first third of the session. I know that you guys probably want to deal with the obelisk a bit. I will say it is an option if you were to find out that it's not dangerous to take it with you. It's something that actually has been done a number of times in Starfleet.
Really?
Yes. There's actually been no observable effect of the obelisk on any actual, I think one of the only few times that someone's even known of its existence, it was simply I think that was the TOS episode, and it was
Paradise Syndrome?
I think it was like a monolith type thing or something.
Yeah, didn't Kirk fall into one and lose his memory and become an ethnic stereotype?
Yes, he did.
Oh, I remember that one.
And then he lost his unborn son and wife.
And they were never talked about again, except for in books.
Ah, poor guy.
So
He lost 2 kids.
Yeah, well, that sounds exactly like the kind of thing that I want to do. No,
yeah, we'll
perspective, just from a moving things forward episodic perspective, I saw the obelisk as particularly MacGuffin-y. I'm not particularly interested in it as a plot point, and I would be perfectly content with like the captain's log. Like we've moved on to the next thing, next session. I don't really have that much tying us to Bahara at this point.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely gonna. That's not 100% true, but if I were to answer that, I'd be giving a sneak peek that I don't want to. Um,
Like,
But-
I'm not saying that I don't want to see Bahara ever again, because I do get the impression that there are plots that are related to it, but I don't see a reason to pay the Kai's actor next session for a guest appearance. Like, I would just move on. But
yeah, I'm
people
I'm
can-
saying for the most part, you guys, at least for now, are kind of done with what I've set out for you guys to do at Bahara.
Either no.
Is there anything left to be worth going back to the FedEx ship?
I was so. I would suggest that next session you make use of the Kai's personal phone number. I wasn't gonna bring it up, just openly myself, and neither was Arso, but I would suggest that at least someone talks to her about it. It will.
Okay, that's
it'll
fine.
help-
The only
help.
reason why Jill didn't bring it up. Okay,
No,
that's
it'll
fine.
just.
Like I said, the only reason why Jill didn't bring it up in the meeting is because they're a bigger fight at the moment with Borg.
I agree.
Yeah.
And a little bit of what I do, kind of. The Borg thing is a problem I kind of expect you guys to chew on from afar for a bit. That I think it'll. You guys are definitely going to have some other experiences under your belt before we actually start kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Seeing it's a problem that's there for you to work on whenever you want. However, it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 sessions before I circle back to that.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to force us like off to like fight the Borg or anything. I just kind of felt like we would probably not want to make someone else be like the ones doing the dangerous part. If like I felt like we should be prepared to do that, even if we were ordered not to. So that's why I brought up the point. But
Well, that's fair. Along this arc, there's certainly enough danger for you guys. This is, however, I think Janeway's logic is pretty sound right now. You guys are very far removed from the location. You're a shining beacon of hope when it comes to that avenue of research. So it's much, it's much more important to slightly slow down your ability to do research than it is to put in you guys in a dangerous situation.
Yeah, it's a background project for now.
yeah,
Anywho's it? I'm gonna duck out of here. I will see you guys later.
Okie dokie.
Right.
Bye.
Enjoy your week.
Fair enough. In which case, I'll probably gonna take off as well, and I want to thank you all. I hope you guys had fun, and we'll pick this up next week where we can leave Bahar in the background and, well, decide whether or not you guys go to Ambus, Azurius, or the Avian Alliance. That's a lot of A's.
Well, it's not going to be Azurus because we're going to the places just so we can talk to their leaders. So
That's fair, though. I will say it's an option to go back to Azurius now. You have talked to one. That was really the benchmark of it. It wasn't you have to hit all of them. So it's completely up to you guys.
And the reason why I might consider that is this, like, there was that moment in the meeting where it seemed like they had a medical problem that they were being coy about. And I just, wouldn't mind trying to pull that out of them.
There was a good catch. There was a medical problem that they were being coy about. That's a very good way to put it.